Could Hunter Greene be traded this offseason? Well, one of the Reds beat writers suggested it, and this suggestion just continues to fuel the fire that there might be some issues brewing with Greene and the Reds. My name is Nick Kirby. Thanks for joining us today on the offseason edition of Chatterbox Reds, your home for Reds content all season long and now all offseason long. Well, the idea of trading Greene seems absolutely crazy to me, but I will explain why it would not be fair of me to just completely dismiss it. But before we get to that, a quick word from our sponsors. There is nothing better than October baseball and grilling out, and I use Omaha Steaks for all my grilling needs. And now during their early Black Friday sale event, you can get 50% off site-wide, plus an extra 20% off select favorites, and our listeners get $35 off with promo code Chatterbox. It's so great to have steaks, hamburgers, and gourmet hot dogs always in my freezer, ready to go. It's so convenient for me to go online and order. I like the value freezer filler package to stay stocked up. The steaks are perfectly aged, hand-cut, and USDA certified tender. The burgers are mouth-watering and grass-fed, but don't sleep on the gourmet hot dogs. They are seriously the best hot dogs I've ever had. Plus, they also carry chicken, pork, seafood, and fantastic desserts. Save big with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their early Black Friday sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code Chatterbox at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com. Promo code Chatterbox at checkout. Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. All right, so this idea of trading Greene was brought up sort of again by Mark Sheldon, the Reds official writer for MLB.com, on October 9th in his article called 5 Questions Facing the Reds This Offseason. Sheldon started out talking about the Reds needing to add offense, and then he said this. This is a long quote, but I want to make sure that you understand exactly kind of what was read. This is the big point of this whole discussion today. Sheldon says, would trading Hunter Greene help bring back a bat? Greene, a 2024 All-Star and 2-time opening day starter, is signed through 2028. The right-hander with triple-digit velocity has shown that he can be a dominant force on the mound, but that ability has been stunted by extended stints on the IL in each of his first 4 big league seasons. The injuries the past 3 seasons were considered relatively minor, including the grade 1 right groin strain that cost him over 2 months this season. He's never pitched more than 150 in the 3rd innings or made more than 26 starts. Sheldon goes on to say, even after a disappointing postseason debut against the Dodgers in Game 1 of the National League Wild Card Series, Greene still could be an attractive trade piece in the Reds' pockets. Moving him would free up salary to sign a bat this offseason or bring back a hitter in return, and a change of scenery could benefit him. This can't be a salary dump for prospects, however. If Greene is traded, Major League talent would have to come back to make it work. Sheldon then adds a quote from Nick Krall, where Nick Krall said, I don't want to speculate on anybody that's going to be traded or not get traded at this point because we haven't had any conversations with other clubs. I don't know what the needs are out there. I don't know what people are available as well. Sheldon would then go on to talk about how there might not be as much pitching depth as people think, something I've talked on this program before that I agree with. Now, this wasn't the first time that Mark Sheldon had something controversial to write about Hunter Greene. Right around the All-Star break, Sheldon said this. This is a quote. Greene, who entered 2025 as the team's ace, has slow rolled his way back from a grade 1 right groin strain since going on the injured list for the second time in early June. Despite a clean MRI exam on July 7th, Greene reported symptoms and canceled a rehab assignment. It's being left up to Greene to determine when he can resume pitching. But for a guy with a long-term contract who says he wants to be a leader, Greene needs to start showing it by getting back on the field. When he is, he can be one of the best starters in baseball. I'll get to kind of the issues brewing here with Greene later on, but I like Mark Sheldon. I actually had the privilege of meeting Mark. Very nice guy. I feel like he went way overboard with these comments. I feel like definitely, and I don't know, maybe he's echoing some sentiments from the club, but I don't know. This felt way too far for me. Felt almost a little personal and not something I really think is good to be putting out there about your ace, the Red Star, their game one starter in the wild card round. We'll talk about that more here in a second. But first, let's look at a few things with Greene. Let's look at his contract for those who aren't familiar. All right, so Greene signed a 6-year, $53 million deal with the Reds back in April 2023. It's a deal that keeps going up every year in dollars. In 2025, he made $6.5 million. It'll be $8.3 million in 2026. $15.3 million doubles up in 2027, 2028, $16.3 million. And there's a club option for $21 million in 2029, which will be just Greene's age 29 season. That club option also has a $2 million buyout. Now, Greene has some incentives as well. He can earn money for Cy Young votes, $2 million if he wins the Cy Young, $1 million for a second or third place finish, and even gets $500K for basically any sort of Cy Young vote. Also earns $200,000 for any All-Star selection, one which he's already got capitalized on last season. All right, now let's review Greene's injury history. So Greene debuted in 2022. He was healthy all season until he was placed on the IL on August 2nd, missed about 6 weeks with a right shoulder strain. In 2023, he was healthy for the first 2.5 months before going on the IL on June 18th, missed over 2 months with right hip pain. 2024, he was healthy all year up until August 14th, missed about 5 weeks with right elbow soreness. 2025, healthy for opening day, but went on the IL on May 8th with a right groin strain. Returned on May 23rd, but made just 3 starts before going back on the IL with the same injury. He missed over 2 months and returned on August 13th. So 2025 was the first time Greene had multiple IL stints, missed about 10 weeks total. Now, look, it's certainly frustrating that Greene has missed as much time as he has been on the IL every single year. But he still has made 91 starts since he debuted in 2022. It's just outside the top 50 of most starts in all of baseball, and by far the most on the Reds. There's only 38 pitchers that have topped 100 starts. So pitchers do get hurt. That's my larger thing. Yes, Greene has been hurt quite a bit, and you would like to certainly have that be less. But a lot of pitchers do get hurt across baseball, is kind of my point there. Now, how good has Greene been? Well, over the last 2 seasons, Greene has the 6th best ERA of any pitcher with 250 innings pitched or more. Greene's ERA 2.76 over the last 2 years. Only pitchers better: Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And also, despite making 17 less starts than the leader in wins above replacement since the start of 2024, Greene still ranks 8th in all of Major League Baseball with 6.6 wins above replacement. That's the Fangraphs version since the start of 2024. So despite his injuries the last 2 years, he's still been the 8th most valuable pitcher. Now, should you consider trading Hunter Greene? This is where I have to be fair because I've long said everyone should always be available. If you're a team, a small market team especially, you should always be willing to trade anyone for the right price. You should always be listening to offers. You shouldn't say, this guy's completely off the table. It's not the way to do business. Now, certain players are going to require a team to move heaven and earth to acquire, but I don't think you should just hang up the phone. And Greene does have this injury history, and I think it maybe is fair to at least talk about and consider the idea. but you have to get an unbelievable return to even consider trading Hunter Greene. It's going to be really hard, though, to find an all-star for all-star type deal. Those deals just don't happen very often. Now, I could make the case that maybe you should trade Greene for a bunch of prospects if a team is going to offer a crazy return, but I'm going to assume probably most people listening are kind of sick of that and don't want to go that route. So who could maybe be potentials? And again, I'm just throwing names out there. Please don't take any of this to the bank. Jarren Duran of the Red Sox is a name that probably would make the most sense. A lot of people maybe would mention. I'm not really interested in that at all. I just don't think Duran's ceiling is anywhere close to Greene's. Maybe you could look at something like Brent Rooker of the A's, who's owed a little bit of money, and then maybe add in their top prospect, Leo DeVries, and then maybe the Reds would take on Luis Severino's contract. I could maybe be interested in that kind of a deal. Maybe Stephen Kwan and their top prospect, Chase DeLauder, who actually debuted in the wild card round from the Guardians. Maybe something with the Orioles. But the more I do this, the more it just seems unlikely to me that I could find anything that I could see a team actually willing to give up that matches what I think the value of is for Greene, without it just being a straight prospect haul. I think there's a lot of scenarios where a team could trade a whole bunch of prospects for Hunter Greene. I just don't see a scenario where you're going out and getting a massive bat in a trade for Hunter Greene. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just personally don't see it. If you see it, let me know in the comments or shoot me a message on Twitter about this. All right, as for the money aspect of this, it's hard for me to see how the Reds could say they couldn't afford Hunter Greene's salary and maybe want to put it back towards a bat when they signed Nick Martinez to $21 million last year, and then they also needed to trade for Zach Littell at the trade deadline. You have a pretty good prospect in Adam Serwinowski for him. So if just a year ago with Hunter Greene, you didn't have enough pitching depth to get through the season, how would trading Hunter Greene really help you money-wise, getting a bat-wise? That's just what doesn't make sense to me, because Greene's contract is never going to get anywhere close to Martinez. It's going to be $5 million less outside the option year. Even the option year at 29 years old, which you would think would be the peak of Hunter Greene's career, he still is less than what the qualifying offer was. So I just don't see the money aspect of it, really how that's an issue. I think that is kind of a little bit crazy to me. For me, I think it would make the most sense if you really felt like you wanted to try to use a starter to get a bat. I think Nick Lodolo is the guy. I've kind of been a on the down guy on Andrew Abbott, but I don't really think Andrew Abbott makes a whole lot of sense to shop. Mainly just because he has so many years of control still left. He's still very cheap. Nick Lodolo is still very cheap too for a star, but is going to be over probably $5 million in arbitration. Only has 2 years left before he hits free agency. So maybe you could consider trading him. I think certainly if the price is right, given Lodolo's injury history, maybe you would consider that. Lodolo's coming off the best year of his career injury-wise. Hunter Greene's coming off the worst. I don't think you typically want to sell guys when they're at their worst, or I think it's better to sell guys at their best, like what Lodolo was. So that would maybe be an option for me. But again, as I've said many times, I think at best, the Reds right now have an adequate enough pitching depth. But trading Lodolo, I think you're going to have to replace him in some form. You're going to have to replace some of those innings. I just don't think there's enough there right now. There's a lot of promise. There's a lot of reasons to be excited with Chase Burns. But Chase Burns isn't going to pitch a whole season. There's a lot of reasons to be excited with Rhett Lauder getting in the Arizona Fall League. But if Rhett Lauder's healthy, he wasn't all of last year, he's not going to be able to go a full season. So pitching depth, man, it's fickle, and you don't think you need it until you do. So that's the biggest thing that I think I would be the most cautious with. Now, back to like the whole notion of what's going on here with Hunter Greene. I mean, there's certainly something going on here. There's just way too much kind of smoke out there, and I don't really know whose fault it is. I have a hard time really being that upset with Hunter Greene, a guy that pitched through a complete game shutout with the Reds with their backs against the wall against the Cubs. Maybe Greene is looking out for his best interest long term, but doesn't that probably help the Reds since they have this guy signed for the next several years? I don't really know what the whole issue is, and I'm not saying Greene's completely innocent in all this by any means, but it would be in everyone's best interest just to get this behind them. Figure it out, kiss and make up, because the best case scenario for the Reds is with Hunter Greene. And I'm pretty optimistic about this team in 2026, especially if they can go out and add a bat. I'd love for it to be Kyle Schwarber, but even if they can just add a really solid above average bat in some form, I really think this team is close. But it's just hard to see how getting rid of Hunter Greene, even if you add an all-star bat, how that trade-off makes this team closer to being a playoff team again. So I hope they can just find a way this offseason to figure out a way to make it work. Maybe tell some of these writers, like, let's cool it. Let's not crap all over our all-star pitcher, because that's not helping at all either. So that's my thoughts on this. You let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll continue to follow this all off season. I highly doubt Greene gets traded, but it's worth bringing up, especially in an off season when, well, you don't always have a lot to talk about. Well, thanks as always for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. If you're listening in podcast form, make sure you're subscribed here. Leave us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate that. All kinds of other great content here on Chatterbox Sports, Chatterbox Bengals. Those guys are going hard. All kinds of Bengals content. Be sure to check that out. Chatterbox Bearcats, UC football doing well. Those guys are doing great work. And then Off the Bench is back 10 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday. Actually, the Stone Shield show is 11 to noon, but 10 to noon, daily sports talk every day on Chatterbox Sports. So be sure to check that out. We'll have plenty more content here coming up here on the channel, so be sure to make sure to subscribe to here on Chatterbox Sports and Chatterbox Reds every your podcast. Till we talk again, go Reds.